Can you recall one moment that you felt most encouraged by your healthcare professional?
Um, I guess when my tumor became stable, it became stable 3 months after I started the treatment regimen, um, and the tumor had shrunk by over 30%. So that was really, I mean, I was so positive. It's like, oh my goodness, it's the tumor is shrinking. The tumor is shrinking, and in my mind, I thought, oh, it's just going to keep shrinking and shrinking, and it's poof, it's going to disappear. Which, of course, that was a wish. And, wishes are great, but wishes aren't what's happening. But the fact that it did reduce substantially,
Mm.
and then it was determined to be stable, and so Dr. Che had just sort of convinced me that stable was good. I was like, okay, so it was just, grasping the terminology and understanding the impact of the terminology. And the stable is good, even though it's like, no, it needs to shrink more. And we did have a few discussions because I would read the radiology report and I would always take note of the dimensions of the tumor. And I remember one time with Dr. Che, and I read the report and I said, you said it's stable. I said, but it's smaller. He said, well, yeah, but I'm calling it stable. I said, yeah, but it's a little smaller, isn't it? He said, well, it is. I said, okay, it's semantics. It's stable, but it's smaller. So, because I wanted to just, holding on to that wish that the tumor would just
Mm.
magically disappear.
Right. And hope is very important.
Right. Oh, hope is essential.
Yeah.
Essential.
Yeah.
And I have lived in hope, and
Mm.
hope is, a part of the journey. You gotta have hope.
Great.
You gotta have hope.
Great. Love to hear that. Um, can you describe a different moment that was particularly encouraging for you? Maybe a high moment for your treatment journey?
I mean, this is probably when I was able to walk again
Mm.
without assistance. I mean, that was profound, and that's when
Mm.
I was in the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, and which is an amazing place to be. If it's an amazing place for rehab, and I was so grateful that I was able to be there because that was the thing that kept me lying awake at night was if I can't walk again, if I can't walk again, life is going to be really, really different. And just being in a wheelchair for a month and seeing how people react to you when you're in a wheelchair, then
Mm.
people don't see you because you're below them. Children on the sidewalk see you, and children will look in your eyes, but adults avoid you. And what I took away from that is because they're frightened. Because if they see you in the wheelchair, they're envisioning being in a wheelchair, and so you're not acknowledged. So that
Mm.
was an interesting observation.
Mm. Okay. So on the other spectrum, was there a particularly challenging moment for you during the journey?
Um, I guess the thing because it's coming up on 5 years. June 19th is my 5-year diagnosis anniversary, which that's amazing. And I had no idea how long I was going to survive. And I did not, per Dr. Che's request, I did not, review all the statistics about stage 4 lung cancer survival rates until this past February when I got back from visiting Dr. Che and I came to my office and I'm like,
Mm.
because I know, because he says we're in uncharted territory. We're in uncharted territory. So I Google it and it's like, oh, 6% of people with my diagnosis live to 5 years. So I'm like, I am in that lucky 6%. So it's, frightening, but it's also profoundly moving that I'm one of the lucky 6% who's still here. And, I'm hopeful that we can just keep breaking the breaking the record book with this
Mm.
because Dr. Shea says I'm the only patient he has like this. So,
Wow.
because I said, well, what other patients who are being treated like this way? So how are they? And he says, you're the only patient I have like this. So, so I would like to find out. There's got to be someone else in the country with my diagnosis, with this treatment protocol, who's also still surviving.
Yeah,
So I want to talk to that person.
that would be lovely. That would be
Yeah.
great. Okay. And was there a time when you felt the limit of medicine and was hoping for a miracle?
Yeah, when the tumor didn't disappear as if by magic, you know, because when the tumor would shrink, and you know, and I would do a scan every 3 months, and you know, and I'd always read the report, and I always read the, I'm really good at reading radiology reports, and I was always looking at the dimensions and would notice when they were not quite the same, and I kept thinking, it's like, okay, just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but you know, we've been at stable for a long time, and so in September of 2020, Dr. Che, in consultation with Dr. Gentili, who is a radiation oncologist, they decided, let's try radiating Paul's lung tumor. So before we did that, I had a PET scan to see if there was anything else going on, and there wasn't. The only thing going on was this little tumor in my left lung, which I was told kind of like a pencil eraser. It's a little thing. It's just this little blob in my lung. And so Dr. Gentili said to me, she said, "We will eliminate your tumor." And I'm like, yes, yes, I've been waiting to hear this. My tumor can be gone. It will be gone. And she was pretty, you know, adamant. "We will eliminate your tumor." I'm like, okay, sign me up. Let's do this. Let's get rid of the tumor. So September of 2020, you know, during the height of the pandemic, I'm coming down to the basement of Galter for 15 radiation treatments, and you know, it's like great, and it was all very positive, and I got to bang the gong when I was done, and you know, she kept saying, "Is this enough radiation?" And she said, "Oh no, this is," because I said, "A lot of people get 20 and 25 sessions." She said, "We don't. That's too much. You don't need that much. You don't need that much radiation." I'm like, okay, so 15 it is, and then it was just being patient, and then each scan subsequent to that, like I'm like, okay, is it going to be different? And it's like, it's still stable, it's still stable, it's still stable, until it was like a year after that. So last September, it was changing shape. So it was changing shape, and then I noticed in the radiology report, it no longer called it a tumor. It said radiated fibrosis, and they weren't giving dimensions anymore. I thought, oh yay, it's it's going away. Well, it's not going away, but it's changing. It's changing, and you know, so they're not giving the dimensions, so I can't, you know, compare it to before.